We're talking about comics.
You know what? I think you explained that to me like 2 hours ago, and I
And I
still.
know, I know this thrills you because you have an extensive comic collection. Let us know how many long boxes you have full of comics.
Um, I think I have like four.
Welcome back to Talking Story. My name is John Minton. That is
The comic nerd
comic fan
himself,
extraordinaire.
Zack Snyder.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Hey man, I love comics. I love comics well, not all my life, but for the vast majority of it. And here's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to say, hey, maybe you've tried comics. Maybe you're deep into comics. Maybe you want to try comics, but you've always heard, maybe, I don't know, I love books. Maybe comics aren't for me. Let me tell you something. This is storytelling that goes all the way back. Storytelling with sequential pictures goes all the way back to the very beginnings of storytelling, all the way back to when we would have pictographs on a cave wall. This is the most historically rich form of storytelling that there is. It is collaborative. It is not only the writer, but the penciler and the inker and the colorist and the editor. It's that weird place between book and film. And when it's done just right, those panels start to just blend together and the action just moves before you in like some type of meditative dream trance. And there's absolutely nothing like it. If you haven't tried them before, I'm going to go through a couple different categories and say, hey, you like fantasy? You like horror? You like sci-fi? Maybe you want to try some superhero comics. I'm going to go through each of these categories and go, hey, if you're a big fan of that genre, try this in comics and you might like what you find.
Man, that was like the most philosophical way to introduce comics.
You like that?
That was impressive. I liked it.
Let me tell you, I absolutely love comics. So we just like get going? I'm excited to get going.
Well, I feel like you got to say your credentials. You owned a comic shop. You have.
I did. I was co-owner of a comic shop.
You got some credibility that you can.
I mean, I've read comics for a lot of years, and I co-owned a comic shop called Atomic Comics. It was a cool place. It was a really neat place to hang out.
It was hip and hopping.
I miss that place.
I don't.
Yeah. You know what? I wonder if you could still find some images of my comic shop on the internet, and you could flash them up here.
I know I can because I'll put it up right now. I've got an old image of you standing on like standing next to your like game tables where people would come and play Magic and stuff.
Yeah, I had those hand painted I was leaving theater and my scenic designer hand painted my gaming tables.
Here's a old picture of John.
And hey, that's enough. Let's get going.
Let's do it.
Chomping at the bit to get going.
What's your first one?
Let's start with fantasy.
Okay.
Like if you can lose yourself in debates on, hey, what is it number one between Robin Hobb or Tad Williamson or George R. Martin, if you like have to click on every video to say possibly Winds of Winter is coming out, you're a fantasy fan. You love fantasy. These are some comics I think you should try.
What you got?
In no particular order, I'm going to go with three different choices you could make. Number one, I am going to go, and you're going to pop these up, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Number one, I'm going to go with Fables. This is written by Bill Willingham, art by Mark Buckingham. Now, this was a long-running series. I know there are some other artists that came in and out, but Mark Buckingham is mostly there a lot of the time. He was filled in with other artists here and there. This tells that story of like, think about your favorite fairy tale characters, Big Bad Wolf, Snow White. Just think about it. They are there. They are in kind of like a little self-contained ghetto. This takes your favorite characters. It gives them three dimensions. It gives them real world things that they're dealing with. It broadens the scope in that character arc way. And the first arc is kind of Big B Wolf himself has hung up a shingle as a private eye. So the first story arc is kind of like that crime noir story of a big B Wolf himself trying to figure out this murder case, and he gets drawn into exactly what's going on in Fabletown, which is the little area that they're all having to live in because they can't exist actually in the real world. And it's just such an amazing, whimsical, fun series. At the same time, it's great satire because it holds a mirror up to what we're dealing with in the real world through the eyes of some of our favorite fairy tale characters having to deal with it. So if you haven't tried before, again, Fables, written by Bill Willingham, art by mostly Mark Buckingham, and it's a long, long running series. I think there's like maybe 10 to 12 trades that kind of put it all together.
And it was also adapted into a Telltale series, The Wolf Among Us. So if you're familiar with that, Fables is the
that is pulled
original.
right from that comic. Yeah. Absolutely. The other one is going to be no surprise. Number 2 is going to be no surprise to anybody. This makes my top fantasy list series of all time. I'm going to go with The Sandman by Neil Gaiman. This is just such a lyrical, beautiful series written by Neil Gaiman. So many artists. I'm just going to throw one of my favorites out there that worked on this run, Mike Dringberg. Again, this is a long, long, long run. There's collections of graphic novels that to kind of collect the whole run of the series. And this tells the story of Dream. This tells the story of the family of the Endless that were here before time. They will be the ones to turn the lights out at the end of time. This is a family including dream, desire, destiny, destruction, despair. All these aspects of us are put together. Neil Gaiman understands storytelling. He understands all the way back to the Greeks and Romans when we would put a pantheon before ourselves. We would give them very real fallacies and foibles of humanity so we could look at them and understand ourselves a little bit more. And that is what he does with this series. Just some of the most lyrical, amazing fantasy that you will see as you watch Dream from the beginning of this, move all the way through the series, come to terms with his own past, come to terms with where he is going in the future, come to terms with so many family dynamics that he gets involved with, come to terms with how he feels about humanity and their dreams, and what he is in charge of and how he can be in charge of that. All of the side characters are just phenomenal. The story, if you're a fantasy fan and you love American Gods, so much of the seeds of that are started right here in this comic series. You absolutely owe it to yourself to give it a try.
And a lot of things coming out about Neil Gaiman, but if you're one of those people that's able to separate art from the artist, maybe try Sandman. Or if you just want to see the amazing art in Sandman, because it's gorgeous.
Look, he's one of my favorites of all time. There's a lot going on. And I'm not going to get into that. All I can do
that's
right
a whole
now
other video. But
that's a whole other video. All I can do is talk about the man's work and what that work has meant to me personally.
Right.
His personal life, apparently, there are some cracks forming in that, which I'm not going to get into at this moment.
You know what? Tudor Ramble did a great video on it. If you want to see what's going on there, you can check that out.
Yeah. Can you put a link down there?
Yeah, it'll be down in the description. We're not going to go over all that here. That's a totally different video.
That was a really interesting video about separating art from artist and how to do it and why to do it. Is it worth doing? It's a really interesting discussion if you want to check that out with Richard and Austin. I would highly recommend it.
Absolutely.
My number 3 for fantasy. This is a little bit weird. This is going back, and this is like, look, if you kind of feel like what I want from comics, I want to be taken back. I want that time machine. I want to feel like I felt when I was a wide-eyed kid when I read a comic. I kind of got one for you in the fantasy realm. I'm going to go with Camelot 3000. Now, this was written by Mike Barr, art by Bruce Patterson, Dick Giordano, and I just had to throw out there Brian Boland on covers, and the covers are phenomenal. This is that story. This could have gone in sci-fi, but I put it here. This is that story when we need him the most. The sword, the Lady of the Lake, will again bring forth the sword. Arthur will rise again to solve our problems. And after a huge invasion in the year 3000, Arthur is called back and he reforms Camelot to fight this alien invasion. It is pulpy. It probably doesn't hold up that well at all. It is.
I'm looking at covers right now. This is the most bonkers 80s looking thing I've ever seen. Of course you put this on your list.
Dude, it will take you back. It will make you feel like a kid again if you just give into it. If you suspend your disbelief going in, it's just a childish, fun ride. And if you're looking for that kind of 4-color explosion to take you back to when things were simpler for you, this is a great way to go. I absolutely recommend it. It is just a freaking hoot.
That is the most you pick that you could have chosen.
Never question how much I love me some Arthurian legends, man.
No,
I will
know.
shoehorn them in. I
know.
can shoehorn them in every list.
Never doubt. Never doubt.
Never doubt. Never doubt. Hey, what about horror? You know I love horror. You know I started reading Stephen King. This kind of launched me on my whole reading journey. I used to go to so many signings during the splatterpunk days back in the 80s, met so many cool people. Like, love me some horror. If you love horror, if you're going to buy a movie ticket and it's going to be to Alien Romulus, nothing else will make you leave your Fortress of Solitude and go out amongst the people to see a movie. If that's the way you are, this is a list for you. These are some comics to try for you.
I'm stoked for this one. I'm looking forward to this.
When you know what's on this list, when you're excited.
I forgot. I don't remember.
When the new Stephen King book comes out, if you're just loving Boys in the Valley by Philip Fracassi like I am right now, this is a list for you, right? Okay. I got the same writer on here twice because I think he's doing some of the best work in horror comics right now. Number one, I gotta go Nice House on the Lake by James Tynion IV, art by Alvaro Martinez Bueno. Oh, this will give you the chills. This will give you that cosmic horror vibe that you're looking for. This is the story of a high school clique, a high school group of friends. They all get kind of a invitation to, hey, I got this super rich friend. He's going to give us his lake house. We can all hang out. Let's have a reunion and all get together. While they get together, night one, they're all together, getting to know each other again, haven't seen each other for a while. There is a huge apocalypse. The entire world is just in flames, wiped away. But this nice house on the lake is the only place left, the only place safe. Why? How was it done? Why were these people called? What kind of Petri dish is this? Who is this friend from their high school days? What or who or what is he really? How did he know this was going to happen? How did he call them all here? How is he responsible? All of these questions happen. The anxiety just ratchets higher and higher and higher as this series goes on. It is collected, I believe, in a couple trades. I think parts 1 and part 2 in 2 trades. Oh, if you're a horror fan, I cannot recommend this highly enough. Nice House on the Lake.
I loved it.
You actually read it.
I actually read it. It's great. James Tynion is phenomenal. And the art is so pretty.
Oh, the art is so right. The style of it is so right for this story.
Yeah.
Number 2, I'm sticking with James Tynion IV. I'm going with World Tree. Written by James Tynion IV, art by Fernando Blanco. This is, we've all seen this story before. Maybe there's a circle of salt on the ground to protect us from what we're going to call up from the nether regions or another dimension. Maybe it's that cosmic horror story where the other dimensions are cracking through and breaking through, right? We've all seen this story over and over and over again. But I hadn't seen it quite done like this. We're all spending so much time in cyberspace, this frontier, our new collective subconscious of all that we've acquired knowledge-wise, all that's out there pop culture-wise, all of our hopes, dreams are spread out across cyberspace and we're surfing it all the time. What if this collection of all of our hopes and dreams butts up against some other reality, some other dimension that didn't quite know we were ever here? And all this activity, all of these hopes and dreams and wishes and knowledge that we pushed into bits, ones and zeros, starts to knock on the doors of something that it butts against, and it can use this cyberspace to surf back this way and get into the physical world. What would happen? What kind of apocalypse would this cause? How would things start to fray at the end? What kind of group of people would be pulled together that understands this technology that could maybe stand in the face of it? So inventive, so cool, so much fun, so horrific. Give it a try. World Tree. The second part of it just came out. I believe the first part is in a trade. If the second part isn't put in a trade yet, it will be coming very, very soon. But absolutely try this one out if you're looking for a great horror thing, the horror story and kind of a new twist that I hadn't seen.
I hope James Tynion gets his stuff adapted to the screen sometime. It would be
This
so
would be
fun.
so cool. This would be such a great flick, man. I would love to see like A24 get a hold of it or just see what they can do.
That would be crazy. I don't think that would happen. Although I think he forms his own production company. This is off topic. I'm sorry, but
Yeah, I think he has. But
Yeah.
that's we're getting pulled up. That's what we do here. Hey, I got one more in horror.
oh, okay.
And this is a classic. I got to go with From Hell. I'm talking the writer Alan Moore, art by Eddie Campbell. You can't do horror better than a story about good old Jack the Ripper. Spring Hill Jack. This kind of follows the investigation. It's a nice dramatization of that investigation. And what is the investigation? What is this investigation and this happening in London at this time? What is the toll that's taken on the victims and the investigators and the city at large? What type of just spiraling downward suck hole is this going to take everybody involved in it? It is step by step laid out by Alan Moore, and before you know it, you yourself have been pulled down into this horror. The art is just black and white art that is just gorgeous. It will just haunt you. It will just suck you into the pages and then suck you into the story and then suck you into this hopelessness that is going on at this time while Spring Hill Jack is having his killing spree on the streets of Whitechapel. So absolutely check this out. It's just so atmospheric. Such a great take on the investigation by a truly wonderful writer, Alan Moore. And I think it's all put in one huge trade volume that you can grab and just binge from beginning to end. If you're looking for a great detective story with some horror infused into it, you can't go wrong with this one.
And if you are a deep horror fan, you may know that it's already been adapted. And Alan Moore, I'm sure, loved it.
I bet Alan Moore stood in line and bought his ticket 3 days early just to be in the front row. I'm sure that's exactly how he...
It was either back in the day when he still tried to have a relationship with Hollywood, or he just wrote it off and didn't even put his name on it. One of the two, no in between.
I'm going to go Alan Moore in diapers wrote it off. Like that early on, he wrote all of this. I'm going to go absolutely no chance. That brings us to sci-fi.
All right.
I got some great choices if you like sci-fi. If you like to wonder who is the better master, Arthur C. Clarke or Heinlein or Asimov, if you love these kind of books, if you love ideas, sometimes to meet up, great characters meet up with amazing concepts and ideas that sci-fi can do, or pathos that can break your heart by putting us into situations that are so far-flung that it just takes an amazing imagination and creativity to come up with them. I've got some great choices for you in the comics realm if you're a fan of those types of story. Number one, we are going to go with Why the Last Man, written by Brian K. Vaughan, art by Pia Guerrera. This is an apocalyptic story. It's a kind of a quest road story. You're dealing with the last man. There is an apocalypse. It wipes off everything on the face of the earth that has a Y chromosome, except for one last young man and his pet capuchin monkey, because he is kind of like an illusionist and he uses it in his act. And they are forced to travel across this new apocalyptic hellscape to try and figure out why they are left alive, the machinations of the politics of what's happening in the downfall of humanity, what's going to rise up in this downfall when there's only females left except for this one now lone man walking around. What does it mean to be the lone man? How much danger is he in because of he is the lone man? An amazing satire, an amazing... It covers socioeconomics. It covers gender issues. It covers us as humans, what would happen if things did go horribly wrong, and the characters of York and everyone else around him. Agent 13. It's such a great piece. It was done as a TV series, but forget about that. Go to the source material. Go to this comic. You're going to see, oh man. Maybe if you don't know a lot about comics, it's like, this is not superhero stuff. This is not for kids. This is some huge social satire work in a visual medium. And wow, my hair is completely blown back. I think that can happen if you haven't tried it before with Y the Last Man by Brian K. Vaughan. Interesting.
I have not read that one. I think I saw the first episode of the TV series and didn't love it, but...
Yeah, you would love. I think you would love the comic.
I remember you telling me that.
I gotta have this writer on here if I'm going to talk about some out there concepts and things like this. I'm going to go with and the art. Beyond stunning. We're looking at We Three by Grant Morrison, writer, and art by Frank Quietly. This is one of those. It's going to break your heart. You're not going to be the same. It's a group of 3 lab animals that have been worked on and experimented on that break out and get out into the world. It's going to give you the same kind of feeling that science fiction like Flowers for Algernon does, that really delves in pathos and emotions and feelings and connection. And these 3 lab specimens that break out with their cybernetic attachments and have to connect with each other and move across. And the art is so beautiful and brutal at the same time. This will absolutely, if you're looking for something to make you reach for tissues, this will absolutely break your heart. It's one of those high concept, high emotion gut punches, and it's just so gorgeous to look at. Absolutely give this a try if it sounds like it might be something you like. We Three by Grant Morrison, art by Frank Quietly.
Interesting. I'll have to add that one to the list too.
I can't do this list without another one of my all-time favorite writers, but I had to go off the beam for this. This is kind of more of what he's done recently. Can't have a sci-fi list with kind of a time travel story. How about, this is going to be off the beaten path. Marjorie Finnegan, Temporal Criminal, written by Garth Ennis, art by Goran Sudzuka. This is that wild, crazy, over-the-top, overblown, violent, sex, you name it, it's got it all. Marjorie Finnegan, who is able to travel through time and uses it to pull off the biggest heists she can throughout time and history, and to pull that booty back to her hideout. And her sister is a little bit of a do-gooder, a little bit on the other side of the law, trying to chase her down. What happens as this chase through time goes for this sister duo, and then what are the machinations beyond them? Who's pushing her sister to catch her? The madness only builds issue to issue to issue. You will laugh out loud. You will question yourself why you laughed out loud at that, because it's just too far. It's one of those, and I mean, trigger warnings everywhere, but for everything. But if you're a fan of kind of that far out there, this could be a wacky, over-the-top, fun sci-fi time travel ride. Marjorie Finnegan, Temporal Criminal by Garth Ennis and Goran Sudzuka.
Garth Ennis, of course, being the writer of The Boys, which has now been adapted, if that gives you an idea of how much gore you may be facing if you try that one.
And I do think they're doing a Kickstarter for Marjorie Finnegan. I don't know if it's
Are
still
they
going on.
really?
They're doing like a nice edition of it. It's like it kind of became like a little cult thing. And I think if it's wrapped up, it just wrapped up on Kickstarter because they're doing like a really nice edition of it.
That's cool.
With some extra stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Did you grab one?
I did not. I did not because I'd already read it.
You're too into
I can't
books
miss
now.
it. I know. I'd read it already, so I didn't want to break the bank for something I'd already already read. Hey, and it wouldn't. It has to be an all-time favorite if I do that. Okay, so that kind of leaves. Look, I'm gonna go ahead and throw out there 3 picks. If you like, look, if you want to get into comics, I haven't tried comics. I want to try comics. I'm not sure about it, but I want to try superhero comics. I want to enjoy one of the art forms along with jazz music that was absolutely created in this country, the superhero comic in the 30s. Look, I've got 3 picks here that I can't imagine would go wrong. I can't imagine you would not walk away going, dude, I'm a fan of the MCU, or and I can see why stuff is that great, right?
But keep in mind, I've seen this list and I remember this list. Keep in mind, this is not like, if you're confused why is this not on the list? I think you kind of went a little off the beaten path with these as well.
Yeah, I'm not saying these are my all-time favorites, or these are often thought of as, this is the best of the best.
Right.
I'm trying to think about, hey, what could I hand somebody, some of the greatest writers working out right now, some of the greatest artists working out right now, with kind of stories, maybe not what you would expect from a superhero story, maybe a little bit something different that could be expansive to your mind and go, oh, wow, I wasn't expecting that with a superhero story. So I kind of went that way.
Yeah.
So let's get to it. Number 1, I gotta go. If somebody wants to find out from the beginning, from the jump, superhero comics, what they feel like, and maybe you're just tired of Superman or Captain America. You've seen him too much around lately. Try Umbrella Academy by writer Gerard Way, frontman for My Chemical Romance, and art by Gabriel Ba. I know there is actually a really good Netflix adaptation of this as well. But the beginning, this just builds a superhero world. It takes so many tropes and stands on its head. It kind of lets you start without all of that baggage of characters that have been going on since 30s or 20s or 40s. It lets you start fresh, kind of in a very recognizable world. At the same time, it uses those tropes from the 30s and stands them on their head. And it just tells such a great story. It's got family dynamics. It's got science fiction elements. It got horror elements. It builds on itself until it just ratchets the tension up to where you just can't stop reading. This is superhero comics. It functions. It works. It fires on every cylinder that you would want this form to fire on. I really think Gerard Way understood exactly what he was doing, and he really knocked it out of the park with this one.
I haven't read it.
And
The show is great.
It's got kind of a really cool, like 50s, 60s nostalgic visual kind of style to it. It's really, really cool. It kind of goes back to the golden ages of comics and uses that art style as a nostalgia factor. I'm telling you, if you haven't tried it before, this is a great place to jump in and just see what superhero comics do for you when you read them. Now, I got it. Look, everyone knows this character. These next 2 characters, everybody knows. But these are the kind of stories that I think you may not be expecting from them. So, number 2, if you haven't done it before, maybe you've done some, but you want something a little bit different. Number 2, Wolverine. Old Man Logan. This is written by one of my faves, Mark Millar. Art by the amazing Steve McNiven. So clean, so precise. His lines, his anatomy, so amazing. This is the story about a bit in the future of the Marvel Universe. There has been an apocalypse. The continental United States is broken up into sections, kind of ruled by these godlike characters. And Wolverine is tasked with having to cross so many of these sections. And he is beaten, battered, broken, old, seen it all. doesn't want to still be around in this apocalyptic time, but with his healing factor, he just can't be anywhere else, and he's tasked with a mission that pulls him back. It's like that amazing Clint Eastwood flick. It's that old haggard hero called back one more time, probably one more time past when he should have been called back. It's just got such an amazing vibe to it. And it's so inventive about what happened to these characters when the apocalypse actually came, and how twisted they've become, and what areas, how can they be pulled back? How far off the beam have they gone? What areas are they controlling, and how are they controlling it? It's just great. I'm telling you, the art is stunning. Steve McNiven is amazing. He was one of the top artists for a good long while. They would give him the most plum assignments over there at Marvel, assignments like Civil War and stuff like that. So give this it's like, I've seen some Wolverine flicks. I like what the movies do. I kind of want to try a comic, but I want something different. I want a little bit of a different flavor than what the movies have given me. Wolverine, Old Man Logan, check it out.
Out of curiosity, how, and this may be a stupid question, how similar is it to the James Mangold Logan movie?
Oh, that not that similar at all.
I thought so. Okay.
I mean, well, there plot-wise there are a lot of similarities, but they didn't go for the whole apocalyptic era.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are different, but at the through line of having to move through it all, that some of it is there.
Gotcha.
But there's so much different. You have it. It's not. I don't think you would feel like if you read this, oh, I've seen this before.
Okay, that was what I wanted to know.
And for my last pick here, I got to go with my fave. I got to put him out there. Batman. There's a reason why he's still like number one after all these years. What an amazing character. One of the greatest characters, I think, out there in comics. This is a great start, but one that people would always point you maybe to some Frank Miller and some other places. I'm going to say try out Court of Owls, written by Scott Snyder, art by Greg Capullo. Oh, this amazing, bombastic, over-the-top art by Greg Capullo. So gorgeous to look at. This tells a story of Batman getting sucked into the beginnings of Gothic City. Who were the power brokers that really built the city? On the backs of who? Are they still in control? Who are these people? What type of cabal is really behind everything that's happening in Gotham City? Is it the Court of Owls? Is it this fairy tale? Is it this nursery rhyme that adults have used to scare their children all these years? Are they actually around? This will pull Batman down into the whole, figuratively and literally. It will break him. It will take him to places psychologically he hasn't been to before. And this is someone that's been broken psychologically many times. Looking at the history of the city that he rose up in as a dark hero, as a dark avenger, as a dark detective, he's going to start to understand just how far and how deep the twisted decadence of this city and its history really goes. It's just a great story to start with because it goes back to the beginning of the foundations of this city and how the hero is reflected in it and what that does to him by realizing he's reflected in this dark city. It's such a cool story. Scott Snyder, an amazing writer. He had a full run on Batman that spanned so many issues, but this is one story within that I would point to and go, this is just, there's a reason why it pops up in video games and other places, because the Court of Owls storyline really struck a chord. And if you want to try some Batman, you want to have something that's not on everybody's favorite list, but probably soon to be. Like it's gaining a lot of steam because it's such a great story, but it's not on everyone's favorite Batman list. But I would say this is well worth checking out.
I remember several occasions you complaining that, like, oh, a new Batman movie's coming out and they're not doing Court of Owls, and you'd be disappointed.
Well, like they did that new Gotham TV show, and they tried, they did it in a video game. They did it in a low budget TV show. I want to see it. I would love to see it really done well. It deserves that kind of treatment. But really done well in that kind of treatment is right here in comic book form.
Yeah, just read the comic.
One of the one of the greatest writers and greatest artists working out there recently. It's all in trades. You don't have to hunt down. A lot of these things are in trades where they collect the issues together and bind them up. And you don't have to go hunt down all these issues. You can just grab the trades from Amazon or so many places. We'll throw some links down there. If you want to try any of these out, absolutely, they are well worth your time and your look-see to see what kind of things, what kind of stories comics can bring to you.
There you have it. You got to flex your comic credibility.
You know what? Nothing makes me happier. I love comics. I will always be reading comics. I still buy comics. I will hit the comic shop and clear out my box at least once every 2-3 weeks because it's just I'm a kid in a candy store, man. There will never be a time in my life when I don't have a sub box at a comic shop and I can go in and say, hey, what came in, and get that thrill of, I get to get into this. I get to see this.
Well, hopefully people in the comments will let us know if they enjoyed it. Maybe you can talk more comics.
Yeah, or let us know if you have tried comics or want to try comics, or maybe have some comics you think I should try. You know what? Maybe some of these people have tried comics. These are some great people who help us keep the lights on here, who help us make decisions, because, I mean, we're not that great at it.
No.
They do all kinds of things. They vote for our Patreon read, all the way up to once a month, they take over our channel with Town Square. If this interests you, you're interested, right down there in the description box, hit that Patreon link and you will find out all about it. But you could support the station in so many amazing ways. One of them is, like we were saying, just leave us a comment what you think about comics. I love them. Let me know what I should be reading. Let me know what should have been on my list in fantasy, horror, sci-fi. Let me know what you think. And while you're down there, that little thumbs up button, hey, hit that. That helps us reach new people. It helps us grow the channel, helps us do everything here. And just, while you're down there, maybe this is your first time because you're a big comics fan and you wanted to see what this doofus thinks about comics. Maybe this is your first time or you've been by a couple times and you haven't hit that subscription button yet. It takes no time at all. It's such an amazing way to support the channel. If you want to, boop, takes a microsecond, you're done. And the best part about it is, it gives you a tingle.
I don't know that it does. I don't know how true that is.
No, let me tell you. I have been to many a comic book shop on New Book Day and cleared out my sub box. I had got that tingle. It absolutely does it.
You know what? For comics, I'll let you have it. You can have the comic tingle.
It's the new Book Day sub box clear out tingle when you hit that subscription button.
Put that on a shirt. That's too many words to fit on.
That's a lot of words. If they charge you by the letter, that's an expensive shirt.
That's too much.
That's absolutely too much. Hey, let us know, man. Thanks so much. This has been so amazing. I love talking comics. I love my journey here on BookTube. I love meeting all of you, hanging out and talking about books. And if you hung out with us this long, you're book people. And in my book, that makes you the best people. Thanks so much for hanging out on Comic Book Talk About Comic Book Day. My name is John Minton. That is
Scott Snyder. Had to flip over to another Snyder. If I was Scott Snyder, we'd be making a much cooler video.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine? I would prefer go Scott Snyder over Zack Snyder, I think.
Oh, I completely agree.
Yeah.
There are many other people I would go. I mean, I don't mean to talk bad about Zack Snyder, but there are many other people I would go over Zack Snyder.
I like a lot of things Zack Snyder's done. I'm just saying.
I do too.
Scott Snyder has a special place right here because of Batman.
Absolutely.
So there you go. All right. Thanks so much. We will see you next time. Thanks for stopping by.